All right, welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast. I am Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright.
And together, we're the Wright Stew podcast.
Awesome.
And so, Brian, this past weekend, we didn't talk about this, but big news from the sidelines of a game. On the Eagles sideline, A.J. Brown was, I don't want to say caught, but he was filmed and shown on air reading a book in between series. It was Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy. And Jim Murphy's book now has moved to the top of the Amazon charts. So Jim Murphy's really excited about this.
Dude, I would say on that, probably a more productive behavior. It looked like he was frustrated, right? And I think our athletes, and sometimes they get a pass, like when they display their frustration. And then sometimes fans get mad at them because they're not showing enough frustration. So this is probably the most productive you can be if you are frustrated. It would have been like if he'd have taken the Bible over there and like, all right, and kind of reset himself. I feel like this was kind of the same thing. That's like, control what you can control. All these kind of things that do have power. Right. I think whenever I played, I was big into the mental side. I was big into mental visualization. I do think the mind is a lot more powerful than has always been credited. But Paul, I feel like you were a starting pitcher. You feel like an intellectual. Hey, were there books that you were into that would, were you trying to, I don't want to say self-help because maybe self-improve. Were there any books that were kind of like, yeah, I like this. I remember reading this. Kind of took you in a direction that felt like it helped you.
So I've never been big on the self-help kind of positive visualization type books. The Brewers got really big into that. I remember in 2002 spring training, they had a guy come in, got the whole crew together, and we kind of went through some exercises and things like that. And I bought into it.
Oh, really?
Hook, line, and sinker.
I thought you'd be like a push again.
But so listen, yeah. I was, like I said, I was always more coachable. Like if somebody said this is the way to get better, I was going to try to do it. And so my 2002 first month of the season might have been the worst month I ever had. So I said,
visualization was not working.
Yeah. So I said, you know what? Let me just get back to doing what I know to do. Like, pray more, trust in the Lord more, and just pitch, try to win ball games. And so that kind of turned the season around and went a little better for me. But I've never been big. Growing up, I was a big reader. Loved Michael Crichton books, kind of science fiction. So he wrote Jurassic Park and Congo and Sphere and Andromeda Strain.
I knew you were a reader, dude.
Fear, those sort of things.
Yeah.
Love Michael Crichton. There's some other books. Winston Groom. I read a few because he wrote Forrest Gump. So I went back and read the actual book. Book is way different than the movie, but still both really good. But did a lot of reading.
Hey, so you're a fiction guy. When I read a lot back in the day, as far as you get on those bus trips before phones, I was very much nonfiction, true crime. All these different murder mysteries. I was very much, but I could only dive in. This is how weak mentally, if it was nonfiction. Like I wanted something that I knew was true. There was some basis, or at least like the Night Stalker and some of those guys. There was a killer that was out in California who did all the symbols. I can't remember. So anyway, dude, that
Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, the Zodiac Killer. I read that. That book.
I have no interest. I have no interest in any of that. I did. I mean, if I was reading that, it was typically a sports related, baseball more than likely, or football. David Halberstam wrote a good book, October '64, about the Yankees Cardinals series. A lot of good insight into some of those guys. I really enjoyed that book. So that book actually. Couple of good like Bob Uecker stories because he was on the 64 Cards. I had a chance later on to meet Bob Uecker when I was at big league camp with the Brewers and shared some of those kind of memories, and he was like, oh yeah, that was a good time and I remember that and this is what happened. So really cool.
He seems like a smaller frame guy. He seems like a smaller frame, or was it just age had made him look that way? How big was
Uh,
Bob Uecker?
Yeah, he wasn't like overly imposing. wasn't a big guy. I think by baseball standards, by like normal person standards, probably a pretty average to slightly above average size human being. I met him in 2000, so it was 25 years ago, and he was he's in his 90s now. I want to say so. It's a little. He still was in pretty good shape. But yeah, I think he does a pretty good job of working out and clearly, Bob Uecker still means a lot to that organization because when the Brewers clinched last year, he was out on the field with them, celebrating, popping bottles of champagne, the whole thing. So, but yeah, man, I don't read nearly as much as I used to now. I do enjoy like a Malcolm Gladwell book occasionally. Really sharp guy. Love those now I'm on the road a lot too, listening to podcasts sort of thing. Podcasts is kind of taking over for books. That's kind of what we're doing these days.
Yeah, you can do it on a plane. You can do it in the car.
Yeah.
You can do it wherever you are. It kind of looks like.
Hey, I love a good Dr. Seuss book as well. I read to the kids. So AJ Brown, keep up the good work. Maybe I'm sure you've got.
Hey, have you ever read in like the bullpen? Were you ever? Obviously, you weren't starting.
No, not outside of like some sort of program, or if we had like a loose scouting report or something like that, but nothing like that at all.
Yeah.
It just seems really odd to even carry a book to the bullpen. That would be.
Yeah, it does to me too, dude.
That
or on the sidelines of anything. Hey, jumping, dude. Hey, did you watch Vikings?
Rams? Not really much of a game. Really, the Rams just kind of took it to them, and we saw some interviews after the game where Matt Stafford said, "Hey, we were playing for something bigger," and that kind of goes to the point you had mentioned the other day, where it's sometimes. I thought it would be a detriment. You thought it would be an advantage, and clearly you were right there. Where athletes get to the field and can compartmentalize, and probably are some of the best in the world at compartmentalizing. Hey, real life, what's going on? Let's get on the field, focus on the task at hand, and do really well. And the Rams clearly are able to compartmentalize and did a great job last night.
Hey, one thing, just jump in, Stafford, he is. And again, I know Mahomes gets a ton of credit, but he was kind of Mahomes before as far as throwing from different angles. Obviously, didn't get a lot of love when he was in Detroit, and they weren't winning a whole lot. But it just felt like there were so many times the ball was just coming out of his hand, and he was getting hit, and there was a big gain. And it's just like, even though he's not obviously athletically what he used to be, he can still move pretty well, but not what he used to be, or what a lot of these other guys, when you think of all these guys, Josh Allen, all these. But man, there were so many times where he was just getting it out of his hand, and he's getting hit, balls right here, and it was, he was impressive.
The thing about that, Stafford and Mahomes were both baseball players.
That's right.
In high school. And we talked to Nolan McClain a couple weeks ago, and Nolan talked about that, how playing baseball helped him in football, and how football, because you're getting in different positions in each sport, and one translates to the other. 100%. And you see that a lot with quarterbacks. A lot of them are pitchers or outfielders, but still athletic and can make throws from different arm angles.
Yeah.
You see that a ton with Patrick Mahomes. You see it a ton with Matt Stafford. And there's other quarterbacks in the NFL who are able to release from up top 3/4, if they're getting sacked, throwing on the run sort of thing, as you might, like if you're making a dive in play or something like that in baseball. So it's really cool to see that. And that's, I'm glad you mentioned that, because again, that's something we preach to the kids we coach. Hey, play other sports, you'll learn and grow from that. So,
well, you can see guys who did, right? You can definitely see guys, and McVay for the Rams, dude, just, a one-game situation when the talent is close to even. They've been banged up. The Rams have a lot of the year with Luka, and a lot of their guys have been in and out as far as injuries. But you give him time, he's a really good executioner of a plan. And, it was just – and Stafford is a good field general. And, dude, it was just – now you think – the Rams, after they played, because they're 14-3, bro. Now after that, you think, hey, the Rams got a legitimate chance to put pressure on somebody it feels like it's going to be the Rams in Detroit again. I don't know how the games match up. We'll obviously figure that out later in the week as we get closer. But I know they've been released.
So the Rams play the Eagles, and then the Lions play the Commanders. So Rams have to travel to Philadelphia.
Yeah, dude. So it's going to be. I don't know. Obviously it's different when you play in an indoor environment. The conditions are ideal. You go to Philadelphia, the conditions probably won't be ideal, but you like your chances when the Rams played like they played, a couple years ago, and it's been a long time since they put together a complete game.
And the whole thing, it sounds like, hey, it sounds like they're playing for something bigger, right? They're taking that on,
and they still can. LA strong.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
they're going to be able to. Hey, tell me this, Paulie. Does this change? Like Sam Darnold had a great year, but this wasn't originally the plan. The plan was for JJ to kind of come in, and Sam was going to be. Does this change like Sam's?
So they mentioned that on the game. His last 2 games have been horrific, just really bad games. And the team is kind of back like, hey, this isn't an indictment on Sam Darnold. The offensive line clearly didn't play well. He got sacked a ton last night. Was kind of running for his life, but hasn't played really well. They talked about that a little bit on the broadcast as well. What's the future moving forward? 2 weeks ago, you would have said, hey, Sam Darnold's going to get extended. He's going to be here. He's the guy now. And J.J. McCarthy's going to have to sit a little bit. Realistically, it seems like Darnold now has kind of been – it seems like now it's Darnold probably is going to move on to another team. These last 2 games might have cost him like legitimately a few $1 million.
Oh, I'm saying maybe not a few, like tens and 20s of millions of dollars. Yeah.
And it's almost like, so we saw Darnold as a Carolina Panther.
No bueno.
And that's the guy we saw the last couple of games is like, that's kind of who we saw as a Panther, right? And we thought all season, like, hey, maybe Sam Darnold, maybe something finally clicked. Maybe this is the Sam Darnold who's the top pick, with all of the tools. And I think he's definitely clearly 14-3 in the regular season is still very capable of that. But again, if you get Justin Jefferson on the outside, that changes things, makes you better.
I would say, hey, Paulie, I would say I don't know if there's a quarterback that has a wider variance in having time, which he's had a lot of the year with Minnesota and clearly being one of the best, and not having time and looking like he hadn't looked like he had looked with the Jets and the Panthers all year into the last 2 games, and the only difference was how much time he had. And I guess that's why you pay defensive ends what you pay those guys, because you put pressure. No quarterback is the same, but there's some guys that you'll see stats of. It's like, hey, pressures, he's like 80%. He finds the hot route, and you don't even want to blitz certain guys. He's the guy that you clearly want to blitz because you can speed up that internal clock.
Yeah.
He's not nearly.
We talked about this yesterday too. Sam Darnold is, and I guess Stafford to an extent, are probably the closest in this playoffs to a true pocket passer.
Yeah.
A lot of the other quarterbacks are running. They're more mobile. They get out of that situation. And it looked like Sam Darnold had a couple times when a guy like Lamar Jackson, and again, Lamar is a different player, or maybe Jade Daniels or Josh Allen, maybe they get out of that situation and create a play. Whereas it looks like Sam Darnold was more like, hey, I'm just looking for the check down or whatever it is, and kind of got stuck in the pocket.
Oh, that's a great point. Is he not able to process and change plays? That's something I don't think the average fan, and I put myself just slightly above the average fan, but understands that, hey, if you can change plays and quickly change plays because you only got so much time, and get into a better play, that is really, and obviously Stafford and the guys who have played for a long time can do that. And it doesn't feel like he had the answers to the test like some of the guys do whenever there's a blitz in this package.
Yeah. So that'll be exciting. So next week we got Lions, Commanders, Eagles, Rams, and then on the AFC side, Chiefs, Texans, and Bills, Ravens. So looking forward to all those games. So we'll catch up more on those. So thank you for listening today. We really appreciate it. As always, we've got a big announcement coming up. We've got 45 episodes done. This will be number 46. But on the 50th episode, we got a big announcement to make, some exciting news. So make sure you're tuning in for that. So we'll be updating you on that as we get closer to that. So 50th episode coming up. Looking forward to making a big announcement and letting y'all get in on that. Ryan, any other thoughts?
No, hey, we should have done something. 45. That was your number back. We should have done something. Hindsight. I'm normally a forward-looking guy. I don't like to be rearview mirror guy. But anyway, we should have done something 45.
45 maybe. And 33 was your number. We could have maybe for 145 and 133. We'll make that happen.
Hey, if we make it, I'm stoked. I'm stoked.
If we make it, that's it. So thanks for listening today. Hey, make sure you subscribe, like, share this with others. We appreciate that. And then we'll catch up with you soon.
Out. Go Pack.